Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azelina, I'm Derek Gano. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. And today we welcome back Nick DeGerolamo, Joe's cousin. We appreciate you, as always, Nick, for coming on the show.
Derek, Joe, thanks for having me. Hope you had some good 4th of July stories shared by Joseph from this year's family picnic. Mr. First toss out, Joseph. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's just definitely,
Right on Amanda's wrist, Derek.
definitely enjoyed the NCAA athletes show last time. I definitely had some friends that appreciated the response and outtakes that we gave to that, and it's actually a good episode that we're going to be doing today because the topic starts up in I think just a week. Opening ceremonies are in 1 week.
Yeah.
Yep. For those that missed Nick's video he's talking about, go ahead and click up here right above me, and that'll be that was whether or not college athletes should be paid. That was a very good conversation with him and Phil Gunther, who also joined us as well. As Nick hinted at, we're going to be jumping back into some top 5 lists. I know Joe loves his top 5 lists. It's been a long time since we've done any, but we did say we would be going away from them for a while. But let's jump back in. And as Nick said, yes, July 23rd starts the Olympic Games, the 2020 Olympic Games, technically, even though they're in 2021. We all know the reason why, what happened last year. Today, we are doing the top 5 greatest Olympic performances. It was kind of a broad topic, so you'll see that some of us went in different directions. I know I kept it to summer. I think Nick kept it to summer. Joe threw in some winter. Joe and Nick threw in some teams that had great performances. I only went with single people, so we're going to be a little multidimensional. It's not fun to talk about all the same anyway, so it's good to have some differences in there. But as always, we will all be the one to start off today, and then we'll go on to Nick and then to Joe. My first honorable mention, we're going to start off in the 1960 Olympics in Rome in boxing. This is going to be Cassius Clay from the United States. Obviously, someone who accomplished many things in his long career, but one of the most important came in the Summer Olympics when he was still fighting under his original name, Cassius Clay. For those that don't know, that was one Muhammad Ali, as he would later be called. But as an 18-year-old, Clay came into Rome for the Olympic Games, dominated, won all 4 of his matches, 3 of them by unanimous decisions. And then in the light heavyweight final, he defeated 3-time European champion, here we go, Zbigniew Peterzikowski of Poland to take home the gold medal for the U.S. He turned pro a month after the Olympics and went on to be the 3-time world heavyweight champion. During the course of his career, he had great achievements, but the first was representing the USA as an 18-year-old, Nick. I thought that was a pretty amazing feat, especially for a tough thing, sport like boxing, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you kind of a little bit of irony in that statement too. You mentioned he represented the United States and won the Olympic medal. And then obviously, if anyone watched the movie that came out in 2020 called One Night in Miami, which is a prelude to what ended up happening, where Cassius Clay changed his name to Muhammad Ali. He gets drafted to go fight in Vietnam, and he says, I'm not going to represent the United States. I don't believe in it, in my, religion. And I had a message from, my God that said, don't go. So it's kind of a little bit of irony that, within a 10-year stretch, he goes from representing the United States as an 18-year-old, which, nowadays you kind of see a little bit before athletes go off to college, especially in like swimming, track and field, etc. And then less than 10 years later, he's forfeiting his heavyweight championship, and he doesn't fight for almost 4 years because he, refuses to fight for the United States. So that's kind of a interesting oxymoron, to say the least.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic point. I'll move on to my second honorable mention, and that was moving up a couple years here, 1968, Mexico City. I have Bob Beamon, long jumper from the United States in what has known to be called the leap of the century. Beamon broke the long jump world record by almost 22 inches. His 8.9 meters is currently still an Olympics record. They actually didn't have the measuring equipment set up for for him to jump that long. It didn't go that far, so they weren't prepared for that. So very interesting, but by almost 2 feet, he destroyed that record. And it's still the Olympic record today, Joe. I had to throw in not many people watch long jump, but that was a crushed record. So I had to put him in that greatest performances.
Yeah, when you said long jump, I kind of thought, oh boy, this is going to be difficult to talk about. But I will say that that is one of the events, though, that is so impressive to see. I have turned it on during past Olympics to watch the guys jump. I mean, it's amazing, right? I will say that, that it takes a lot of leg strength, of course, to make that jump. And then to do it in a manner of winning medals. And back in the 60s is just impressive for that man. And Bob Beamon, I think you said his name was. Yeah. So that's great, Derek. They're two very interesting performances.
Yes. Moving on to my number 5
Only honorable
here.
mentions.
Yeah. Well, number 5 now. Now we're going to move back. We're going back to, this may be where we start to get into character people that you guys might have. Jesse Owens is my number 5, 1936, out of Berlin, track and field, representing the United States. For those that don't know, you have all these countries come in. Even now, well, maybe minus a country like North Korea, they don't send anyone, I don't believe, but countries that are at war with each other, they still all send people to represent, or athletes to represent their country at the Olympics. But 1936, for those that don't know, that is obviously in the heat of getting into World War I or World War II, excuse me. But Owens took home 4 gold medals in the 100-meter dash, 200-meter dash, long jump, and 4x100-meter relay. In a country, Berlin, Germany, where Black athletes were seen as pretty much inferior to white athletes. But Owens shut up the Germans and the Nazi propaganda with his performance. And I found out that supposedly Adolf Hitler was there. He was supposed to shake the hand of each winner after each event, and he either left or wasn't present at each event that Owens won, to avoid admitting that he was the best. So I thought that had to be thrown in there, Nick. That was not only a great performance in itself at the 1936 Olympics, but also paved the way for thousands of people to come.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail in the coffin on that one. You definitely took one of mine that's in my top 5 and honorable mentions, and I imagine he's in Joseph's as well. But yeah, I mean, 1936, you're talking Hitler is, just starting to not necessarily take control, but he's starting to take his grip and starting to take power in Germany, starting to assert his might. And, he never liked to admit defeat. I mean, there's stories of, when the war was on, the edge and he was about to lose. He allegedly, I believe it's allegedly because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I believe he committed suicide. So this way he would not have to admit that he, was defeated.
This isn't a history show, Nick, so if we get that wrong, that's okay.
Just quick history lesson for those that are interested.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Jesse Owens definitely to be able to do that in the time that we were not only as a country, but also in the state of the world and the place that he did in is truly one of the more remarkable performances to be under that much pressure too, to excel. Because obviously, if he doesn't excel and he doesn't win those events, there's a lot of shaming that's going around. Who knows how, if it sets, others like him back years before they can get to future Olympics. So, I mean, yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the coffin. Absolutely. It was a really great performance.
Now, Joe, I know you have this one, so you can be pretty brief if you want. But number 4, let's go up to the 2008 Beijing Olympics. This may be a little, people might not agree, but number 4, I put Michael Phelps. United States, obviously, swimmer. Without a doubt, he is one of the greatest Olympians. That's not really the question. All these are. 23 gold medals, are 14 above the next highest, which is insane. In just one Olympics, he had 8, his 8th and final medal. Obviously, that was what I remember from that was the part that he wasn't even really in when I think it was France who was the favorite in the 4x100 medley relay. And I think they were ahead, and then Jason Lezak came in and he just busted ahead, and then you got him going crazy for the 8th gold medal. But Joe, I mean, you can be pretty brief. I know you have them, but maybe I have them as low as 4 because some of the other people, like I'm just gonna say it, like I have Usain Bolt higher. Maybe if he had 8 abilities to the ability to get 8 gold medals in short running races, he probably would have gotten it. That's not to say Michael Phelps what he did wasn't amazing. It's just that swimming has all those ability to get those medals, so that's why I have him 4. Still amazing feat, but
I think having a list like this, honestly, and not having him on it is very questionable. I know they're all our opinions, but I just think that he is one of the best athletes in the world. And when you can get, I think you said it, 23 gold. Was that what, or 23 medal? I mean, that's
gold.
Listen, people in our I mean, that, I think of that and I think of like how hard it is to gain a medal, like to actually achieve a medal. It's hard. It's not easy work. So I think for him to do that, I mean, he did it 22 more times, guys. So Derek, very well deserved, and I have him close to 4 on my list, so I won't spoil it, but it's close to 4.
Number 3. So I already gave you 1, but number 3, no spoiler, none of them are United States. So number 3, we're going to go to 1976 in Montreal. For Romania, I have Nadia Comaneci in gymnastics. Her performance in 1976 was so good that supposedly I believe I read that the electronic scoreboard that they had didn't even register a perfect 10 score, and she got a perfect 10 score. Prior to 1976, no gymnast had ever been given a perfect 10 and actually she did it 6 times in that Olympics. 6 times she got a perfect 10. But she quickly became one of the greatest gymnasts of all time. She won 5 medals, 3 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. That's as much as I can go into my gymnastics thinking there, Nick. But Nadia Comaneci is my number 3.
So I actually considered putting her on my list as well. I'm not going to reveal yet whether or not she is or isn't. However, obviously, because it was before my time and I haven't seen it live in person, but gymnastics is always one of the fun events that, you know, people in the United States get really involved in every 4 years. So obviously to see her do this, and, you know, what's really interesting about what she did is not necessarily that she wasn't a United States citizen, so it's like seeing someone from another country, but she was only 14 years old at the time that she did this. So, you know, think about what you were doing when you were 14 years old. I mean, for myself, I mean, I was wearing glasses. I couldn't run a 100-meter dash in under 15 seconds. You know, this woman is out at the Olympics getting a perfect 10 in a gymnastics event, which had never been done before, which is why the scoreboard couldn't read a 10,
right?
Because no one ever got a 10.0. Everyone only got 9.9. They couldn't put 3 digits on the thing. That's why it's literally said 1.0, and they're like, no, it's a 10. So, I mean, you know, for her to be able to do that, especially at 14 years old, is definitely incredible. And it's definitely probably inspired a lot of the gymnastics people that names we come to know today. Simone Biles is the one that comes to mind most recently, who will be competing this year and competed in 2016. Ali Leishman, I believe is her name, was another one of them. Gabby Douglas was another back in 2012, I believe Gabby Douglas was. So it's definitely inspired an entire generation of gymnasts based off what
absolutely
this little girl from Romania did.
So, Joe, my number 2 is, and I kind of hinted at him earlier, 2008 Beijing track and field athlete from Jamaica was Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt was just, he was a freak athlete, so much faster than anyone else, to the point where he got bored out there while he was running. He's literally only doing it for 10 seconds and he was getting bored at the end of it. In the 100 and 200 meter sprint events, he not only won by a wide margin, but he set the record in both. In the 100 race, he began to, as I said, he celebrated before the finish line, and he still set the world record, which he has since broken. He still holds the 100-meter record, world record at 9.58 seconds, and the Olympics record at 9.63. The 200 meters, he still holds the world record, 19.19, and the Olympics record at 19.30. He had 8 events. He won 8 gold medals, 3 of which were in 2012 and 2016, only because 2000, I only threw 2008 specifically because that's when his records were. But Joe, Usain Bolt, my number 2. Do you remember watching Usain Bolt back in the day?
I mean, yeah, I do remember it because I was out of college then, and I remember saying that guy reminded me of a running back. He was so fast,
he's a big
and
guy.
Then I thought Bolt. I think of lightning, and it makes sense that you think about that because he was just so incredibly fast. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I actually have my. I'll just say this: I thought about him, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna keep my list all American, and that's kind of what I did. But he was definitely one guy and one athlete that I know, that's kind of funny. One athlete that I thought, you know what, if there'd be one show that I could not make Derek laugh in a way that he's like, oh man, Joe just said that again. But that's what makes me interesting. But no, Derek, great job for number 2. He's it. He's a fantastic runner.
And lastly, now people may not even know who this is, but I put him in because when I read the story, and I also went through this with all this list with my girlfriend Lindsay, and we kind of picked it out specifically. So we came up with number one, and I said, you know what? That's an amazing feat. So I put it at number one. 1960 Rome, we're going to. Abibe Bakila from Ethiopia is my number one. He ran the marathon, by the way. For those that don't know, running the marathon is very hard. The marathon is 26 miles, and just to add on 385 yards on top of that. 26 miles. Winning the marathon at an Olympic pace without shoes does not sound possible, but that is what Bakila did in Rome in 1960. Bakila grew up in Ethiopia running barefoot, but intended to wear shoes in the Olympics, but Adidas gave him his shoes and they did not fit. So he said, rather than me being uncomfortable, I'm just going to run without shoes. So you intentionally handicap yourself by not wearing shoes in an Olympic event. He still won with a time of 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 11 seconds, which at the time was a world record. 26 miles, by the way, 26 miles running barefoot. And by the way, he won again in 1964. This time he wore shoes. So good for him. But Nick, I don't know if you have any thoughts on Abibe Bakila, but I thought that story was absolutely amazing. I couldn't leave him out.
To be honest, I didn't. That was completely out of left field and where I did not think you were going to be going with that top Olympic performance, to be honest. But, I mean, it's one heck of a story to hear about a guy running a marathon barefoot, let alone at Olympic pace.
Right.
In Rome. I mean, you left me speechless, Derek. You left me speechless.
Well, gain that speech back because guess what, Nick? You're up. So, top 5 list for Nick. Greatest Olympic performances. Let's start off with your honorable mentions.
Okay, so I got 2 honorable mentions. Okay. Honorable mentions, I had to go kind of back and forth on a little bit because I was a little compelled to, by recency bias, with a month from now, I probably would have went with some of these other ones like Katie Ledecky, Simone Biles. I definitely could have went with them. I was considering, putting Carmelo Anthony on the list just because he has 4 Olympic medals, 3 of them gold, but I did not. So my first honorable mention is the original human underwater fish in Mark Spitz, who was basically Michael Phelps before Michael Phelps. In 1972, Mark Spitz won 7 gold medals at the 1972 Summer Olympics, including he set the world record and Olympic record in each of the 7 events that he won a gold medal in. And in total, he won 9 Olympic medals in his time competing at the Olympics. I believe he went back again in 1976 and got 2 more. He competed in far less events this time, obviously. And even in 1992, he tried to make a comeback 20 years after he won 7. However, he failed to qualify during the U.S. Olympic swim trials. But that was my first honorable mention for that. Joseph, you got any thoughts on Mark Spitz being an honorable mention?
I actually looked at him when I was doing the research, and it was before my time, actually, by 11 years, I would say 11, 12 years. But no, I've heard of him. I think that's a really good one, though, because swimming to me is one of the most impressive events. I always say that it's so hard to do. And to this day, I can't swim well. And I still think that to do it at that level and to train that well and doing it in the 70s, that's a very commendable honorable mention, Nick.
So my second honorable mention goes along the terms of running, which coincidentally Derek's going to react on this one. So what a coincidence. 1988 in Seoul, Florence Griffith Joyner competed in 4 events: the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the 4x100 meter, and I believe it was the 400 meter was her other event. As my thing comes up here, excuse me, it was the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the 4x100 meter relay, and then the 4x400 meter relay she competed in. She won silver in the 4x400 for the U.S. The reason I put her on there is because at the time she set the records for the 100 meters and 200 meters for women, and she still holds those 2 records. Obviously, both of those could have been in jeopardy this year. However, the favorite for both of those events is not going to be competing. So it looks like her records will stand for at least another 3 years. But I found that to be a very admirable and very nice performance, because not everyone can get 3 gold medals competing in the fastest events in running. And, you know, unfortunately, she lost her life not too long ago, unfortunately, due to an unfortunate overnight sleep. But I definitely felt that she deserved to be in the honorable mentions as someone that had a truly great Olympic performance, Derek.
Yeah. Another one that I had looked at, and I mean, you got to cut it off somewhere, right? She had some great performances, and it's amazing that you don't think of 100 and 200 meters to be very different, but they are. That in if you think in people don't know what meter is, it's basically a yard. So that's pretty much like a football field, right? So you gotta put a different mindset. There's got to be a little bit of a different mindset going from 100 to 200. But it's like these athletes, like Usain Bolt, like Florence Griffith Joyner. They don't even bat an eye at going from 100 to 200. They can do it both, and it's truly an amazing thing, especially getting not only 1 but 2 records that still hold up, which is another crazy thing with all the athletes nowadays, and she still holds that record. That's amazing.
So my number 5, which was alluded to earlier, I spoke on. Derek had mentioned him. Number 5 for me was Jesse Owens. I reacted to him already, so I won't go into too many details on it. But again, I mean, remarkable performance to win 4 medals. You know, you're basically sticking it to Hitler, who, you know, is supposed to come shake your hand, and he blatantly leaves because he doesn't want to admit defeat to someone that he feels is inferior. But to win 4 medals under that pressure, Derek and I already talked on Jesse earlier, so Joseph, feel free to chime in on Jesse Owens being number 5.
Yeah, I think when I was real young and I would watch running, they would always talk about him being one of the like patriarchs, if you will, of the runners in the 1930s, and for him to come up all the time shows you what a legend he is, and he still is. And I'm sure a lot of these runners, and I don't follow running as close, but I will say the young runners probably look back to him and watch him, because he will be forever known as one of the best runners of all time. So definitely you guys hit the nail on the head. I missed that one. I did not put him on my list, but Nick, good job on number 5.
Whoa, we got some controversy here, folks.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Joseph Vasilina does not put Jesse Owens in top 5. But to continue on to my list, we're going to go back to running again, and it's another United States runner, is Carl Lewis. All right, he's basically, what can't you say about the guy? He's arguably one of the 3 greatest United States Olympians of all time. He competed at 3 different Olympics, won gold medals at every single one of them in multiple events. I don't have it up for me right here, but I don't need it to just tell you that this guy was just like one of the greatest to ever compete on the track. He was the fastest man alive for over 10 years. He held the world record before it eventually got broken by another name that you'll hear again in a little bit that Derek had already mentioned. But Carl Lewis, I think, and like Joseph mentioned with Jesse Owens still being mentioned, Carl Lewis is still mentioned every year that, the Olympics come around. So his legacy is definitely enduring. Derek, feel free to give your thoughts on another runner, since he was one you didn't have, I believe.
No, he wasn't. Another one just left off, but yeah, the 9 gold medals, which is absolutely insane. And well, I just mentioned about 2 different events. Add in the third, long jump. That is insane. I've seen online that there was an amazing back and forth that he had with another athlete. The name isn't coming to my head, but
was it Michael Johnson?
That's what I was going to say.
Or was Carl Lewis before? I think Carl Lewis.
No, I think he was slightly before. I don't remember who it is, but there was a good back and forth in one of his Olympics. But yeah, Carl Lewis was one of the best runners of all time. That can't be debated. Definitely a worthy addition, Nick.
So number 3, I throw a little bit of a change up here, and I know Derek said he, keeps it to individual athletes and individual performances. I mostly kept that way with my list as well. However, I threw an oddball in there, not necessarily because other individuals are not as deserving, but when you look at the all-time great Olympic performances, not necessarily by like one country at a single Olympics or one country all time, but like one team at a single Olympics to give one performance as great as it was, is why I put the 1992 USA men's basketball dream team in at number 3 on the list, because they were all together only for one Olympics. They all weren't there again. This was the first Olympics that professional basketball players were allowed to compete at. And while to this day there's still controversy about why Isaiah Thomas was not on the team, who are you going to take, Isaiah Thomas, or you get Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird? Right. I mean, just with those 3 alone, how much more of a great team can you build? Not to mention you had Joseph's favorite player of all time, Christian Laettner, was on the team. You had John Stockton. You had Karl Malone. You had Scottie Pippen. You had Patrick Ewing. I mean, the list goes – you had Clyde Drexler. The list goes on and on. These guys won every single game, all their exhibition games, all of the elimination round games. They won every game by, I believe it was over 20 points. And for retrospect, to people that don't understand, yes, we are the United States, and yes, we do dominate often at the basketball events. However, officiating is a lot different on a worldwide level and at a FIBA level than it is in the United States. In the NBA, you see someone get poked and they flop backwards as if it's a soccer match. Around the world, that's not the case. They use a different ball in FIBA. The up and down is a lot different. The arena is a lot more open. You don't have people as close to you. So it's definitely a different atmosphere. Plus, a lot of the guys that you're playing against are now playing in other countries and help bring them to promise. So like Manu Ginobili was a big guy on Argentina for a couple of Olympics. You had Tony Parker in France. You had Dirk Nowitzki carrying Germany for a while. And even look at people nowadays with like Luka Doncic just got Slovenia to its first Olympics. Australia is a really good Olympic team because they have a lot of NBA players now. Nigeria, I believe, just beat the United States men's basketball team in exhibition games. So, the rest of the world is coming around. So even though, even though all 12 of our guys are NBA players, other teams have NBA players and teams from across the thing. So for the dream team to be able to do that with the team that they had at one single Olympics, which despite the redemption team, I believe, was the '08 mantra, and the 2012 team, which featured like LeBron, Durant, Kobe. I truly think the 1992 Dream Team deserves to be up there with greatest individual performances at a single Olympics. And that's why I put them at number 3, Joe.
Yeah, they're going to join my list too. So we thought alike there, because I have 2 team sports, as I said, that I told Derek the other day. But they're on there. There's not much you can say about those players, and I'm going to mention some more too that I jotted down. And when you hear about those guys, and I looked at the list from this year, it's not even comparable. It's just unbelievable, the Hall of Famers that are that represented the '92 Dream Team. I used to have, and I still might have, the figurines that were made, and it's awesome to see it though. And thinking back to that, we'll never see a team like that ever again. It was unreal. Nick, great job on your number 3 pick there.
Thanks, Cuz. Number 2, we're going to be similar to Derek here. In the Jamaican Dream, the current fastest man in the world in Usain Bolt. He's number 2 for a lot of reasons. Derek touched on them before. 3 gold medals in 2008, set the world records, 9.58. The image of him blowing past the competition and pointing at 9.58 is still among the best things you'll ever see. He won the same 3 events in 2012. He did win the same 3 events in 2016. However, one of them, unfortunately, got taken away in a relay because one of his team members tested positive, I believe, for a banned substance. So, unfortunately, he did lose that gold medal. So, he only had 8. So, he didn't tie Carl Lewis's record anymore. However, I have him at number 2 over Carl Lewis because he broke Carl Lewis's records and he was able to do it at, in a time where the thing too about today's day and age is I feel like there's a little bit more pressure than there was back in, the 80s because of social media and television nowadays. Nowadays, a lot more people see your performances. It's all the talk on social media. You don't wait 3 days to see it in the newspaper because they have to send it back overseas to their editorial team and then print it. You do something, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's on maybe even TikTok this year now. It's on Snapchat. That minute before you get back to your hotel room, you're going to know how people feel about your performance. So I definitely think for any of his performances, I mean, if you told me to pick a specific one of the 3, I'd probably go 2008 because that's the year he broke those records. He's definitely one of the greatest Olympians of all time. And not to mention, I mean, he made this thing like famous.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
How many Olympians do you know that make a pose famous?
No,
I mean, this
very
became
true.
like the high of the Olympics. So, Derek, you already mentioned Usain Bolt, so I'm going to flip it to Joseph since he didn't react on him either. So, Joseph, how do you feel about the Jamaican star?
Yeah, and I guess I made a little bit of a mistake here. Instead of having my 2 team sports, I should have subbed them with one of the fastest guys in the country or in the world. So the Jamaican sensation name has instead of having the Cool Runnings movie, they should have made it after him at the end. But no, he's a fantastic runner. I said it. I think I said it before. You guys did a good job. It shows you that I don't know my Olympic history as much. But Usain Bolt is what did you say? What is that?
I said you've seen more Olympics to me, and you would think you know that.
I know. I
There's
know,
more countries than the United
research.
States of America, Joe.
I'll
show some love.
I could have branched out a little bit more. Exactly.
Think about the athletes in Chad.
I'm excited, Nick, to hear who your number 1 is. So let's hear that. Who's your number 1?
My number 1 is not the best kept secret of all time. He's probably the one that you should have guessed from the beginning of this. It's none other than the human fish underwater in Michael Phelps. Now, again, if you're asking me to pick a single Olympics, I would probably go 2008 because he won 8 gold medals there in 8 events. Yeah. People say, I remember Derek mentioning it earlier when he was talking about Phelps. He has more opportunities to get more gold medals. Not everyone has those same opportunities. Gymnastics, you have a lot of opportunities. I guess in track and field, if you're a very good jumper, you can also have quite a few opportunities in addition to running sprints. However, here's the thing I like to remember, though, for people. He has to do 4 different types of strokes between freestyle, backstroke, butterfly, and the backstroke. So he has to try and master 4 different ones against guys that are mastering just one in other countries. He has to show up each night, 8 different nights, I believe. It might be 7, actually, but I believe it's 8 different nights. He has to show up and perform at the highest level for those events. In London in 2012 and Athens in 2004, he did it 6 times. And in Rio, he did it, I believe he did it 6 times also in Rio. Or he might have only done it 5 times. He might have only done it 5 because when you get, or he might have done 6. It's 5 or 6 because he gets to 23 somehow. But he was doing 100 meters. He's doing 200 meters. He did a couple 4x100s and 4x200s. And he's like the guy. Basically, it's like, okay, the United States is down by a length. Well, Michael Phelps is about to enter the water. So now it's a whole different story. The United States is back in it. Before he even enters the water. 23 Olympic gold medals, 28 gold medals 28 medals overall, Only one of those was bronze. And I believe the bronze came in Sydney in 2000. So he competed in 5 different Olympics. As you can tell by how I'm ranting about him, I feel he's one of the greatest Olympian of all time, or is the greatest Olympian of all time, Not to mention, in 2008, you had the 4x100. So you had the whole Jason Lezak was the one that came back and gave him the win. I believe it was the butterfly event for the 100 meters, I want to say. I think it was a 100-meter butterfly. Yeah. It's the one where he's literally like this, and he touches the wall 100th of a second faster than the other guy. So breaking Mark Spitz's record of most Olympic gold medals was literally decided by like that, folks. Like that much of a margin. That's insane. Nothing else can get decided by that, like that. Not a kick in a soccer event, equestrian, beach volleyball. Nothing gets decided by that close of margin. Not even in track and running events do you see someone win by 100th of a second over the next guy or girl. I mean, it's mind-blowing. And, I researched this too earlier, and this will be my last point. The Olympics is a worldwide viewing event. So it garners billions of people each year it's on. It's a huge moneymaker. Obviously, this year it's going to be significantly down in revenue because fans are not going to be able to go to it due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and Japan's in a 4th state of emergency we just read earlier in the week. However, I researched this. In 2008, the night that he broke Mark Spitz's record and got his 8th gold medal, in the United States, 32.7 million households tuned in to watch that performance. Now, keep in mind, too, it's taking place at like 8, 9 a.m. over in China because it's in Beijing and they're like 12 hours ahead of us. So it's like 7, 8 p.m. here. Over there, 32.7 million people are tuning in to watch one guy swim a race, which 365 days of 3 other years and 350 days of the other 4th year in the Olympic year, no one watches swimming. And yet 32.7 million households tuned in to watch this guy. And then in 2016, in his final race ever, 31.8 million people tuned in to watch him race. I mean, that's mind-boggling.
A lot.
Golf, tennis, most World Series games, most basketball games, until you get to the NFL division and championship games. You don't see, or wild card games even sometimes, you don't see people in the United States tune in to see that in anything. And they tune in to watch this guy. So, Michael Phelps, number 1 for me.
Yeah.
I don't know who wants to take it up from there, but go for it.
Just the complete fact check, just to be sure. 6 gold in 2004, 8 in 2008, 4 in 2012, and 5 in 2016 is the.
So he got
that's unheard of.
He must have gotten 2 silver then in 2012 because I know he
correct.
Yeah,
Two
so
silver.
he got so 2 silver, the 1 bronze. I know he got a silver in 2016, so he must have gotten the other silver in 2004.
2004 had 2 bronzes. Actually.
Oh, 2 bronzes. Okay, so then it was 2000. He got a silver. I know he had he had 3 silvers then. 2012, 2 silver, and 2016 a silver, right?
Correct. 3 total. Yep.
Okay. So I just had the silver and bronze mixed up. So you didn't get one in Sydney then? I thought you got one in Sydney.
He finished 5th in Sydney, I guess. Okay. So
I knew he competed.
Yes.
I knew he competed. So, but yeah, again, Michael Phelps, number 1 Olympian all time for me. Number 1 greatest individual performance of all time for me. He was already on Derek's list. Joseph, if you want to react to him, please do so. But I swear to God, if he's not on your list, I'm coming over to.
Oh, PA yeah. Only do so. Is he on your list, Joe?
He is. And
okay.
I'm not.
All right. We'll get to him. We'll get to him when he's on your list. No worries.
Okay.
Go ahead and start yours up here, Joe.
No worries. All right. So my first honorable mention is a guy that a lot of pro wrestling fans will know, and I know Nick knows this man. I had to do this because he was the 1996 Summer Games 2-time division NCAA heavyweight champion. He then ended up winning gold medal in the 1995 World Championships. That is none other than Clarion's own and Pittsburgh, PA native Kurt Angle. So I put Kurt Angle as an honorable mention. That's tough to do to win a world championship, but I just thought I'd do that. And then my second honorable mention is a man that is underrated, I think. He was a great diver, and it's Greg Louganis. I put Greg Louganis as my second honorable mention. He had the furthest dive in the history of springboard event at 754.41. To me, that sounds very, very long, and I don't know what it all equates in, but I know it was a great dive. And I went with Greg Louganis as the second guy. My number 5 is a woman that you all have mentioned, but I'm going to preface why I put her number 5. I remember the name Carrie Strug, who was a very good gymnast. Well, this woman took it further. And in 96, Strug had a great Olympics. But in 2016, Simone Biles won in gold in the vault, the floor exercise, and she assisted in capturing a team goal. So I have Simone Biles as at number 5. Someone wants to talk about that maybe for a bit. You know, I liked her at that spot for me.
I mean, listen, I like I mentioned, Simone Biles is definitely one of the greatest gymnasts to compete of all time. I didn't want to put her on just because of recency bias. I want to see what she does at this Olympics, and if she can add on to it. I mean, if we were doing this show a month from now, she'd probably at least be in the honorable mentions. Again, I just want to see what she does at this Olympics.
She's young. That's fair.
She is young. And, at the Olympics, you don't compete forever. You know, it's usually like by your 30s, you're considered old. So it's like, okay, how long can you do this? So, I mean, if she can do it at 2 Olympics, it's even greater. But, you know, I'll definitely be tuning in to see her and see how she does. Because, you know, gymnastics is also, you know, one of those events that, you know, people in the United States get excited for once every 4 years. You know, we're not tuning in on a Sunday night in October to watch gymnastics. No disrespect, but usually the Giants are getting beat on Sunday night in October. So,
all right. So I have the next guy is actually someone you guys did not mention, but I thought he was worthy. 1980 Winter Games skating legend Eric Heiden, who was a speed skater. He won many events such as the 500 meters, 1,000 meters, 15,000 meters, 5,000 meters, and the 10,000 meters. Unfortunately, I didn't know it didn't say if he won a gold medal, but I'm assuming he might have won one. Eric Heiden, it's spelled Heiden, but I did not do. I dropped the.
That's pretty important, Joe. It's just pretty important to know if he won a gold medal.
I know.
I'm sorry. Did you say you don't know if he won an Olympic gold medal?
That is correct.
I'm assuming he did with those numbers, though.
But you don't know if he did. He's number 4 on your greatest Olympic individual performances of all time. What?
No,
I feel like having an Kornheiser moment.
He won 5, Joe. He won 5 gold medals, by the way. So he's pretty important. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Joseph,
well, Nick, you're gonna like this one. Number 3 is 2004 Michael Phelps. I have Michael Phelps from 2004.
2004 Michael Phelps?
And I have him as the most decorated Olympic athlete. Yeah, it said he was in. This is 04. I wrote down.
Oh.
He had Athens, the 400-meter individual medley, and he won the first of many gold medals in the world record. The crazy time of 4:08. Michael Phelps. Nick said it a lot. He's one of the best athletes of all time. So that's who my 3 is. Now, my number 2 might come with a little screw because it's not one person. This may be the best team ever to capture gold. I watched the movie, Nick. I'm sure you watched the movie. I know Derek has watched the movie. The 1980 men's hockey team. And I have 3 things here. That there was a miracle on ice. Not many American players actually were that good in the NHL. So to put this team together was a great feat. And they beat Czechoslovakia 7-2. They beat Norway 5-1. And they beat the Soviet Union 4-3. So I put the hockey team miracle on ice at number 2. Nick, you look dumbfounded right now.
So hang on here. Okay. Well, first of all, I think Derek can speak for this also. We're still trying to wrap our heads around why you put Michael Phelps 2004 Olympics.
Yeah, I know.
And not
he set the record in 2008, Joe. Why are we picking 2004?
2004, he got the 2 bronze, which, again, he got 8 medals.
It's me. I don't know why.
But he broke all the records he set in 04 and 08. So I don't get that still.
Oh.
Now, number 2, okay?
Okay.
Based on your number 2, I think Derek and myself now know who your number 1 is. And if you and the audience should also, considering you said you had 2 teams on there. So there's only one other team you could have.
Yeah.
But number 2, okay, so here's what I want to ask you. So I'm not denying that the 1980 U.S. men's hockey team, was a very, very, very good team. They pulled off one of the greatest upsets in not only hockey history, but in Olympic history and probably worldwide betting history. I mean, if you could have seen the line and the money line back then, I imagine the Soviets were like minus 10,000 and the U.S. was probably like plus 5,000.
Great movie.
Like, crazy. But here's what I want to ask you, because I did consider them for my list. I did. But now here's why I held against it. It's a great individual Olympic performance, but they weren't supposed to win that game. And if the United States and the Soviets played that game 10 times in a calendar year, they're all fully healthy, no one ever gets injured, there's no ref fixing or anything like that. Do you think the United States wins like 5 or 6 times? Because I don't.
Probably not. But it takes one time.
It does. It takes one time, and it means you were the best for that night.
I mean,
but in looking in the grandstand of all time and best, performances to ever go, we're mentioning ones like, we mentioned Mark Spitz, who won 7 gold medals. He could probably have done that again if he had tried. In the next year, he probably could have done that.
Right.
Michael Phelps, obviously his resume speaks for himself. 4 different Olympics, he's winning 8 medals, 6 medals, 5 golds. He's setting records left and right. Usain Bolt was the fastest man alive, and it still is the fastest man alive. the United States men's hockey team, the reason why I didn't include them and why I don't think they are part of the top 5 greatest Olympic individual performances of all time is because they weren't supposed to win that game or matchup, whatever you want to call it. And if they did it again, they probably would not win. You know, here's the best example I'll give you. In 2008, the Giants played the undefeated New England Patriots. Okay, Patriots were 18-0 heading into the Super Bowl. We all know David Tyree, helmet catch, Plaxico burst in the end zone. Giants spoiled the perfect season of Patriots. Are the New York Giants one of the greatest? Is that New York Giants team one of the greatest teams of all time?
No.
You both shake your head no. Now, did they pull off one of the greatest upsets of all time? And is it arguably one of the greatest games of all time? Yes. But are they one of the greatest teams of all time? No. And I have the same reaction and feeling about the United States men's hockey team. I might get a lot of flack about that from some ice heads, but that's my own personal stance. And I might get some own flack from my parents.
The website, no, that
considering miracles on in my house.
The website, listen, the website that I looked at, actually, they had him, I think it was in the top 10 for performance overall. That's why I thought it would be okay. But that's a good point. No, it was overall Olympic performances. All right. Number one is the absolute dream team, the 1992 basketball team. I had to do it. Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, David Robinson, Karl Malone, Scottie Pippen, John Stockton. I don't have to go any further than that. Great players. They beat Cuba 136-57. They beat Panama 112-52. They beat Puerto Rico 119-81. That's just 3 scores. I mean, if we take away this, I would put Usain Bolt number 2 then, or flop 1-2 there. But I go with the dream team because I grew up watching them, and I just think that was one of the best teams ever.
I don't dispute that because I had them on there as well. I find it amazing that you listed all the players except for Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird in your naming of the players there. I find that pretty remarkable how you left those off. How those 3 don't come to mind right away.
You know what?
But
this kicks off. This kicks off in a lip.
What I'm interested in hearing from you, Joe, is because I believe all 3 matches that you named were all in, I believe, the group play that they did, which was all in their region, like Puerto Rico, Panama, Cuba. No. I'm not disputing it, Joe, because I think if Derek could have put them put them in the top 5, he would have. I put them in my top 3. Okay, I mentioned they beat every team by like 20-something points. Yeah,
it was impressive.
Put them number 1 in terms of individual Olympic performances. When name the last great Cuban basketball player, I can't name a basketball player from Panama, no offense, or Puerto Rico. The closest one that comes in any of those areas is Tim Duncan, but he's from the Virgin Islands.
True.
Which, it's not mainland United States, but it's still actually part of the United States. But again, like those, you can't name a guy.
Valid.
So, I mean, the other countries across the world. Now, Argentina, came along, but it's really like, Spain, France, Australia, China. Those are the teams that they beat in like elimination games and the finals, and those are the ones that you want to, recognize. Because I mean, Cuba, like, who pays attention to Cuba basketball?
This is part of my not knowledge of basketball, and it's all part.
I want to know that.
I can only get better from here, though. That's the good thing.
You got to get the knowledge. You got to get the knowledge, Joe. No, I don't want to hear you don't have the knowledge anymore. You got to get it. Do the
Michael
research.
Phelps in 04 at number 3. What about 08? I still can't get over that.
By the way, for those that didn't, no, my microphone's messed up. For those that didn't watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, they had a great conversation about Croatia, Joe. That's who they beat in the gold medal game. About shutting down Tony Kukoc, who was the leader, the young gun for Croatia, simply because Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan already didn't like him because it was somebody that Jerry Krause was looking at to potentially take over the team in the future. So that just made them not hate him, and they shut him down. I think it was the first game they played him, which might have been the group stage. I'm not sure. But for those interested in a good story, go check that out. Last Dance. I've talked about it on the show before, but Joe, real quick, give us your honorable mentions and top 5 right in order there.
All right. My honorable mentions were Kurt Angle and Greg Louganis. They were my honorable mentions. My number 5 was Simone Biles from the 2016 Summer Games. Number 4, Eric Heiden, 1980 Winter Games, the skating legend. Number 3 was Michael Phelps in 2004, most decorated athlete. Number 2 was the American hockey team, but also I've been persuaded to put Usain Bolt in there. And number 1 is the NBA Dream Team, led by Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson.
Nick, go ahead, real quick.
I need help for the Olympics.
Once again, my honorable mentions were Mark Spitz, 1972 Olympic Games, Florence Griffith Joyner in the 1988 Olympic Games. Number 5 for me was Jesse Owens in 1936. Number 4 was Carl Lewis for me. You pick any one of his 3 Olympics. I just went with him in general. Number 3, I feel bad taking him now based off Joseph's explanations, but in 1992 United States Dream Team definitely still deserved to be up there for individual Olympic greatest performances. Number 2, I didn't leave this man off like Joseph did. Sorry, Joseph, I'm bragging on you. That's family love. Usain Bolt. Again, I probably take 2008 because that's when he set the initial records. But if you wanted to, you could take 2012 too because he won gold in all 3 of those. Sure. And then number 1, it's greatest Olympian and most decorated Olympian of all time in Michael Phelps. Again, I'd probably take 2008 if you told me to pick one. But I think you could easily do 2004, 2012, and 2016. You could also mention it as top 10 Olympic performances of all time. 23 gold medals, 28 overall. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. So that's my top 5.
And my first honorable mentions here, I had Cassius Clay representing USA in boxing 1960. Second honorable mention, Bob Beamon representing the USA in the long jump 1968. Number 5, Jesse Owens, USA, track and field 1936. Number 4, Michael Phelps, USA, swimming 2008. Number 3, Nadia Comaneci, Romania, gymnastics 1976. Number 2, Usain Bolt, Jamaica, track and field 2008. And number 1, Abibe Bikila from Ethiopia in the marathon in 1960. So everyone, that was our top 5 greatest Olympic performances. We hope everyone enjoyed the video. And as always, Nick, thank you very much for coming on to help us with as our first guest in a top 5 list. So we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks again for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Just a quick note for people that want to watch the Olympics. Do keep in mind that they are taking place in Japan this year. It's a 13-hour time difference. Yeah. Okay, so keep in mind the stuff that we're going to be watching at home. When we watch swimming and gymnastics, they're going to be competing in the mornings there. So try to sympathize with, them having a morning hangover or something of that nature. And keep in mind that when in the morning, when we're all getting ready to go to work, the men's soccer team, or not our men's soccer team, but soccer games, potentially basketball and other, team performances that you might see in evenings are going to be tipping off. So make sure you let your bosses know at work that, hey, you might need 20 minutes to check the score at the Olympics. And during the afternoons, it's probably going to be mostly replays because they're not going to be competing from like 11 a.m. our time to like 7 p.m. our time. They're probably not competing in terms of Eastern Standard Time because it's nighttime over there. And last time I checked, you don't do the Olympics at 3 a.m. So just keep in mind that those are all probably going to say previously recorded or previously taped, and that those are replays of it. So
right.
just keep that in mind for your viewing pleasure. But again, thank you for having me on. I can't wait to watch all the Olympics with all 4 of my pets in the house going bonkers about it. And hey, you know what? Also, the same week we got NFL training camp opening up. So definitely an exciting time for sports at the end of this month.
Thanks, Nick. And Joe, final thoughts.
Well, now I know that I really have to do my homework on the Olympics, and I'll be watching too. But I'm kind of gonna give some comic relief to it though too. I'm always good for that. So no, Nick, again, thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure. Always very good with your time and setting up and all, like I've told you before. And me and Derek are coming with you 2 shows next week. We're not going to say days, but we're going to tell you we got 2 shows coming up. So please stay tuned, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. We need to keep hearing from you. Check out YouTube and all that. Trying to give Derek a break on the shtick, but Derek, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, I do it anyway. You know the drill, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Click that like button. Help us by subscribing is going to help us grow the channel, so we appreciate you doing so. All podcast platforms if you want to listen: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. Facebook group, as well as Twitter. Follow us on Twitter and the Facebook group. timeoutderekandjoe@gmail.com if you want to email us. But as always, everyone, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Stay safe and enjoy the 2020 Olympic Games. Take care.